Hey YouTube family, it's your girl Mrs. Rance. I'm here with another sermon notes, and this is going to be on 2 Samuel chapter 3 verses 1 through 39. I don't have notes from chapter 2 obviously because I was teaching last Sunday, but I do have the notes for chapter 3, which we're going to get into. All we missed from chapter 2 is that David is now anointed as king over Judah, so he's going to try to solidify his place on the throne here in this chapter, and we're going to see a lot of political chess being played with some of the major players in the chapter. So right at the very beginning of chapter 3, you see where it mentions to us that there are 6 sons born to David while living in Hebron, and these are 6 sons born to him from 6 different wives at this point. So David has quite a bevy of beauties at his arm side, and so now he's gone ahead and had children with them. This is important, and this is mentioned to us, I believe, because we're getting kind of set up and ramped up for what kind of happens later on in David's life, and we're going to see that his errors in judgment and his sinfulness kind of permeate his life, because these things cause like ripples. It's like the ripple effect of sin. You do it and you don't think about it, but in the future it's affecting him and his family. So we see here where Abner, who is the right-hand man of Saul, he somehow has survived, even though most of Saul's family is dead, including Saul himself. And Abner is now the general in command under a new king, which is Saul's last surviving son, who is Ishbosheth. And mind you, Ishbosheth is like the only remaining family member outside of, I guess it was Jonathan's crippled son. So now Ishbosheth is sitting on a throne, but he's basically very young at this time. And Abner basically is like, I guess he's kind of boastful. He kind of feels like he's the one that put Abner on the throne. Abner feels like he's the one that put Ishbosheth on the throne. And so Ishbosheth catches wind that Abner's sleeping with his father's concubines. He flips out because back then, sleeping with somebody's concubine or mistress was basically taking ownership over that person's household. So he hears this and he goes and he confronts him and he's like, Abner, are you really doing this? Abner flips out. No, I'm not. How can you even say that about me? If it were up to me, you wouldn't even be king. I should turn you over to David for even insinuating such a thing. Ishbosheth goes off afraid now of what Abner's going to do. Abner takes this as an opportunity to get messengers to send them to David to say, hey, I'm going to flip sides. I want to be on your side. All I want is a cabinet position. Can you make that happen? If I can bring all of Israel under your rule. David's like, oh, that sounds good, because I was just planning on ruling over Judah, but if I can have all of Israel, sure, why not? But he gives him a stipulation. He says the only way I'm going to do that is if you bring me my wife Michal, who I was betrothed to with 100 Philistine foreskins. So basically Saul had given Michal to David, but then he took her back and gave her to someone else to be someone else's wife. So now she's been married to some other dude for 10 years, and now she's being taken away from her home and being told, no, you're going to go off and be with David. So mind you, last time David and Michal were together, David was leaving to go run away from Saul, and although Michal helped him escape Saul, she turned on him when Saul came looking for David. Like, oh, David was going to kill me. I had to do what he asked. So I don't know if David knows this, but I feel like he's doing this for a couple of reasons. One, I think he's showing his swift hand as king. And I think the second and most important reason is that he's showing a succeedance. He's basically saying Saul was the rightful king under God. I married his daughter. His family's wiped out pretty much. And Ishbosheth has no business being king because he's so young. That makes me the rightful heir to the throne because I'm married to Michal. So I think he was showing that he was the rightful king so that those who lived outside of Judah would respect him as king. So David's house is getting stronger at this point. We see that Saul's house is getting weaker and weaker. And we're seeing this almost as a dichotomy that's present. You see good represented by David's household, which is now basically surrendering to the Lord. And then you see Saul's household, which represents basically evil and self. So everybody in Saul's house was for selfish gain. Ishbosheth wanted what he wanted, and then Abner now wants what he wants, and the two things are completely opposite. So David's now called for the return of Michal. Michal comes back to him. Abner brings him back brings Michal back, and he comes into the household of David. David makes a feast for him welcomes the return of his wife Michal. She's, getting acclimated into being in the palace with him. And now you have a situation where David basically has Abner. Abner's his nephew by marriage. But David also has his own general, Joab, who's his nephew by family. So these two nephews are at odds with each other. Joab does not like Abner because Abner was responsible for killing his brother Asahel. So Joab concocts this scheme with his own brother that, I'm going to kill this dude. He finds out that Abner has come to the king's palace and has gone home in peace. He's not hearing that. So he sends a messenger to say, hey, Abner, come back. The king has more he wants to say to you. He basically pulls him aside, takes him to a dark corner and says, hey, we're cool, right? And when Abner lets his guard down, he stabs him in the stomach and kills him the same way that his brother Asahel died. And he does this kind of with his brother Abishai. They basically concoct this scheme together to go ahead and kill this dude. Well, David finds out about it. He catches wind. He says, okay, you know what? You killed this guy. It's on your head. I'm going to lament. I don't agree with this killing. And David basically curses Joab's family to say, may they all have sores. May they all have leprosy. May they all die of the sword. May they all have famine and strife in their life and all these things. And so he laments. He says we should all walk around in sackcloth and mourn for this man who died a senseless death. So you're seeing where a lot of things are coming into play here. So I think David's sons were mentioned at the beginning of the chapter, just to jump back to that, because of Deuteronomy 17:17, where it talks about a king is not supposed to multiply wives. Well, David's got 6 wives, and he's still collecting wives even after this all happens. And he has 6 children by them. So if you think about it, let's just think about this. Let's say the Bible is not even on your mind. In our day and age, if one man, has 6 children by 6 different women, you expect calamity. You expect problems and trouble to constantly follow that man. Well, this is true of David, even though he's king. We're going to see where the family matters kind of get out of hand in his life. If you go back to 1 Samuel 27:8 and 2 Samuel 3:3, you see that David married Maacah, who is the daughter of Talmai, the king of Geshur. He married her for political reasons. He has Michal for political reasons. So he's got all these women that I don't even know if he really loves or cares for them. A lot of these were politically motivated marriages. Abigail from Carmel, she was the wife of Nabal the fool. And she basically was part of David's collection. David saw that the Lord did away with Nabal, and he collected her as a wife. I have no choice but to believe it was political because she was so good about how she kept her household safe by coming out to meet David. And I think that something was endeared to him about that. But I think also when Nabal died, Nabal was a wealthy dude. When Nabal died, his household and all that belonged to him would go to Abigail, who now is married to David. Therefore, all of that now belongs to David. So it sounds like a political marriage to me as well. So these are important because these political marriages and these children of these unions are going to cause David some serious issues down the line. So Joab has done this killing of vengeance, which is contrary to what God has said. God wanted David to get the throne at God's hand, not from the sword. So it sounds more like Joab took things into his own hands. He obviously did not inquire of the Lord about this. This vengeance killing was a serious problem. I have no doubt that God would have taken care of Abner and taken care of Ishbosheth without Joab's intervening, but it is what it is. Now David's got to deal with the situation. He's got to deal with the fallout from the situation. He's got to appear to the people to be a fair king and a king that's after God's heart and leading the people in the right way. So he immediately disassociates himself. So this is going on even today. Our government has this thing of plausible deniability. I wasn't there. It wasn't me. I'm washing my hands of it. Okay. And a lot of times these are political moves, but I really think here David was coming into his own as a man of God and really realizing that was a senseless murder and it shouldn't have happened. So another point I want to mention is that our pastor brought this up, that the very first thing that David had to do as king was to protect the Ziphites and the Keelites. Well, Ziph is Hebrew for rejuvenate, and Keel is Hebrew for refine. And why would David need to be rejuvenated and refined? Well, he had to humble himself because remember, these two families were the ones who said, oh, Saul, you're looking for David? He went that way. They basically turned David over to Saul. And so I feel like this is important to bring up because David is being rejuvenated and refined in his faith as he moves about as king. So yes, he's still making some mistakes and some errors that we can learn from, but at the same time, he's also trusting the Lord. And I think that's what this really speaks to is for us as believers, that even though there's a lot of things going on around us, there's a new president, there maybe jobs lost, there may be houses lost, there may be there's natural disasters happening. I just read about the tornadoes yesterday in New Orleans, and my prayers for those people that are dealing with the fallout behind that. Like, there's things and consequences going on, but we still need to be trusting God in everything. So a pretty good chapter. We're going to see now where as we move on, where Ishbosheth is dealt with, Joab is eventually dealt with, and David has to kind of make some tough decisions. He's still going to be collecting wives and making some choices, but we need to see how these affect him down the line. And I think it's going to be a good overall, a good look into a godly man who's flawed as far as being a flawed family man. So speaking of flawed family man, I wanted to talk to you about a Bible resource that I have been looking at over the last few months. It's called the Complete Guide to the Bible by Stephen M. Miller. I found mine on Amazon. You can get these at most Christian bookstores, and I recommend Amazon because you can get a pretty good price. It retails for $19.99 according to the UPC code, but I think you can get it for less on Amazon, obviously, especially if you are a Prime member. I'm not sponsored by Amazon or by this publisher, but I think it's a good resource if you've never read the Bible, or if you are wanting to ease your way into reading the Bible and you need a little guide to kind of help you along the way. Or if you're like me and you just like historical data, you like to see maps, you like colored pictures, you like reading information about what's going on in the world at the time that you're reading a certain Bible chapter. So one thing I want to show you is that, so I'm in 2 Samuel reading about David, and it says, good king David, flawed family man, which is where I got that particular information from. Besides just reading the Bible, this is a good resource because you get pictures, you get like some historical things, scrolls and whatnot. It's got really good colored maps, so you can kind of see this says David's kingdom. So there's a lot of good information in here, a lot of things that you can read to kind of deepen your knowledge, I guess, so that when you read the Bible, it's not so confusing. I think when I was a kid, reading the Bible confused me. A lot of it was because of the translation, but a lot more of it was I felt like I was just kind of lost. I didn't understand how to unwrap these stories and how they affected people. And I think the older I get, the more wise God has allowed me to be. And I pray for wisdom when reading the scriptures so that I can share with you and with others around me. So the Bible is not antiquated. This stuff is still going on today. There's still politics happening. And just like Abner, Abner had gone on tour basically and talked to the Israelite elders to say, hey, you should follow David, because he was trying to spare his own life, for one, and for two, he was trying to gain a position in David's cabinet and be powerful. So he wanted to keep his friends that he had in high places. So just like he went on tour and talked to the elders, politicians do that even today. They get on their big mega buses and drive from state to state and city to city and give all these speeches and whatnot. It's the very same thing. Instead of there being a king, we get a new president every 4 years. And the politics was going on then, and it's still going on now. So the Bible is not antiquated. It's real and true, and all these things are repeating themselves. Solomon said there's nothing new under the sun, and it's true. A lot of the things that they do are fully explained in the Bible if you'll just open it up and read it. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Please thumbs up. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the notification bell so you won't miss any of my sermon notes as they come up and become available. Again, I really appreciate you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next video.